What's good and welcome YouTube. It's your boy Vexus, the lurking legend, head cook of the Eternal Dawn, but y'all can just call me Vex. So happy to be back with the crew, new and improved, better than ever, to talk about the latest and greatest chapter of One Piece, 1146. Without further ado, let's get into some intros. We've got our W helmsman. We have Knack Reacts. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. I see the vision. We have a new captain aboard the ship, and he's going to lead us to grand heights.
Before we get to that, though, our trusty first mate and our historian, we've got Kube of the Red Sea. How are you today, brother?
Hey, what up, guys? I'm excited. Another One Piece chapter. Dude, this is great. And what do you mean, new captain? Kind of looks. Does he look like a regular captain? I always said that. I always said I have choppers. I have chopper vision, so it might be me, but feels like it's our Captain Lucas.
Oh, that's a serious bounty. We are moving
that's
up.
Crazy. Last but certainly not least, we have our fearless leader, the one and only, the man who will become the king of the pirates. We have Reviews with Bro, aka the one, the only Kush Daddy. How are you today?
Hey, what up, guys? Glad to be here. Glad to be leading the Con Pirates 2.0.
Yeah,
having my crew with me. Let's get that one.
Eternal Kong. That's hilarious.
That's what it is.
Yeah, you guys, as always, make sure you check out all the links in the description. Make sure you like the reaction, like the recording, like the video. Make sure you guys have subscribed as well. But yeah, let's get into it. This has been one hell of a series of chapters, you guys, and we're actually blessed with a bit of like a cover art, right, for the volume this time around.
Yeah, it looks like there's a new volume coming out soon, and we have the cover art. And what I love about this is that this confirms officially that Loki is our pink-haired princess of the arc.
It's perfect. He needs our saving.
Rebecca's still number one in my rankings, but Loki's climbing up, pretty significantly with what's going on. It just throws me off, like the hair color. I think the hair color that throws me off the most, I'm not gonna lie, is how Usopp down here has like completely different color facial hair than his
God,
hair.
yeah. I didn't even pick up.
That is like, it's jarring. I'm just like, yo, what's up? What's going on with this? Is this what flies like fashion wise in Elbaph? That's crazy.
Thank God Usopp's not in South Park, or else he won't have any soul with that style.
Oh my goodness.
What the hell? Oh,
yeah. So other than that, it's pretty spiffy. Always down to see Nami and her Elbaph drip. This is I don't know. This is interesting. I'm always excited for new volumes. I mean, we're getting another SBS soon.
That would be cool. But I honestly I do like the cover art. I feel like it's it takes certain scenes at the beginning of the arc, definitely, but it's pretty cool. I feel.
Well, that color scheme on Usopp is straight from Obelisk and what is that?
Yeah.
Old show.
Asterisk and Obelisk.
Asterisk and Obelisk.
Yeah, and Obelisk. Yeah.
Fake fan. Wow.
That.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm not up to date on my lore.
Well, I think what's most interesting is like Chopper has like gold-plated antlers now.
Oh yeah, that's sick. He's also front and center. He's like right here.
Yeah.
Let's go. Leading the charge.
There's something I never realized now that it's covered. Is that the drip is very similar to the style of Drum Island and what Doflamingo is wearing, the coat. And if you look at Chopper, his coat looked quite similar to what Wapple and Dolphin was wearing at the beginning in Drum Island. So it's interesting. The drip.
Right.
Yeah, but
Look at these pants though. I'm sorry, I keep tearing apart Usopp in my mind. Like what he's wearing is just
look at
hilarious.
Asterisk, dude, this is Asterisk and Nobilis. All the Gaelish, the Celtics who are fighting the Romans, they wear all those weird pants like that.
He's like, hold up, guys, I gotta inflate I gotta inflate my pants real quick.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not ready.
They all wear that.
They look like jester pants.
Yeah, for real. I mean, it's
We're
pretty
also-
fitting then, I guess. You know, for
But also
yourself.
Luffy wearing shorts and cowboy boots, essentially. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, true.
What-
Actually, you know what else? A bit other than the coat, he's giving me Ace vibes a bit. The where he's dripped.
Oh,
Remove the coat, you know,
Yeah, you're
the
right.
weird thing around his shoulder to his hip,
yeah.
the shorts.
Hell yeah. Well,
Cool cover.
wonderful art. Always good
Yeah.
to see these. Moving on to the cover story though. And we get a chapter title here, A Stir in the Silence. And we now see the Oni Child Yamato's Pilgrimage, volume 31. Hashtag 5 more years for the
Bro.
Yamato cover story. But this one's called We Owe You Our Lives. Please let us serve you. I think this is a collective community W. A lot of people, especially us here, you know, in the TED crew, we've been saying this was probably going to happen, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. I know,
That's
Cube, you got to talk on this, but I mean, this we knew this was coming 9 editions ago, 9 chapters ago. So thankfully we got it. Now we can see what's happening outside of this building.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously we're getting the Kiros and Odin moment where there's a humbling for other people, and you know, people who have like suspicious past who are now like not saying they're gonna become great heroes, but at least a better storyline for them and for the people around them. So
I thought
and there was something that was quite there was something that was quite interesting. It was also after a discussion with Nak we had after reading the chapter. So we've been giving hints, especially like 5 chapters ago, about we know the Revs are just waiting for the Godside to make the move, right? And I said, what if we get something about the Revs? Considering Yamato's story with the flashback, remember holding on to that moment of Luffy, Ace, and Sabo, I'm wondering if the people who we're expecting to arrive in the chapter, in the cover story, might be the Revs and not Blackbeard or Cross Guild. And so we will be seeing the Revs doing movements, but not like in story, but not in the. They're not in the current story. They'll be in the cover story. Seeing the Revs making moves.
I think the Revs are why Shamrock got called back to Mary Joa.
Yeah.
So if we find that out, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I can see the
Considering, you know.
memes now.
He's headed west.
That's when you know the story is really hitting the final, you know, act is when Dragon looks a different direction. I don't put him on Fraud Watch or anything like that, but man, these memes they'll never get old.
They're definitely funny. I'm down with
I
them.
could see the Revs, I as well as a lot of people I know in the community are pretty fixated on that the Blackbeard pirates could be tied in, just like the last cover story, the last major cover story with the Germa and their
Offspring
emotional
King, man.
exclusion and whatnot. Absolutely. I'll never let the agenda die, especially after our last stream. Go check it out if you haven't already. But I think it could be both. You know, it doesn't have to just be one faction. We saw the world government was trying to pull up on Wano at the end there when we were dealing with Kaido on the rooftop and whatnot of Onigashima. So I can see, again, multiple people kind of, especially like it illustrated that with Green Bull showing up and post Wano, is that now this place is supposed to be defenseless. And if this is Yamato's arc, you know, that we're getting, and I expect 5 more years of it, then yeah, we could definitely see some insurgents from multiple factions.
And I'll say this, it is the perfect time for the Revs to come to Wano, you know, it's Luffy's territory. I don't think they're gonna have an issue seeing Dragon or Sabo, you know what I mean? So it could be interesting. But I like the multi-faction thing, because that could be interesting.
I wonder if Yamato knows about Sabo and her connection to Luffy.
Yeah, if you can remember, she the dream moments, and she knows about Sabo. He's in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she knows about Sabo. I mean, we don't know. She knows that he's alive now. We don't know Yamato knows that he's alive, but they know of his existence.
Okay.
I think it'd be kind of sick.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is because we're obviously seeing like a forming of like another scabbard type of situation mirroring Odin's story You think Otama has an actual position in that kind of vanguard, or is Otama going to be kind of like the Shinobu of this next iteration or generation?
I think she'll be like Kiku,
How
because she
old
was
is she
a kid
again?
at first.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah.
How old is she again?
Otama? I think he's like
Yeah.
10 or like 8 or something.
8 or 10, yeah. I think she met Ace maybe when she was 6 or 7. Something like that.
It's hard to
Because I
say.
like to-
That's an odd age for characters in One Piece. That's like when Luffy made his decision on what he's gonna do.
I think she's 8 because it's like the
Yeah.
same age as Momonosuke, but Momo got
Right.
like all ripened. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure she's 8.
I mean,
Yeah, I
But
can
I
see
was
some
thinking-
resolve happening. Some sort of. Well, actually, the Wano incident probably was what's going to define her. So yeah, I can see her being
Yeah.
a guardian or.
Yeah,
Protect
she was a
her
big
Wano
part.
some
She
way.
like turned the tides in Onigashima.
Yeah.
For
And
sure. She's an asset, and I could see her playing like a big role, but as far as like, I don't know, you know, like the whole Shanks and now Rocks situation where it's like, you're too young, I don't want you on my crew type of thing. It might be that like if Yamato does decide to put together like a full crew, that they discount Otama at first. So it's like, no, I'm sorry, it's too dangerous. So like, I don't know, that's what I'm saying. Is she gonna be kind of kept at an arm's length, like how Shinobu wasn't technically the Scabbards, even though Shinobu was there during the whole Odin flashback? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I see
she
what you're
would
saying.
fit the theme with her devil fruit because obviously it won't be like the beast parts of Kaido, but Yamato does have that beast theme, and the people are gonna definitely join Yamato. So she does fit the theme with her, her devil fruit. Able to tame animals, so.
Hmm. I think what's interesting is that she wants to go on this, or Yamato wants to go on this journey to be like Odin, start his journey. And he does collect scabbards, but when he collects the scabbards, he was very annoyed people were following them. And I love seeing that Yamato obviously looks pretty annoyed.
That's so funny. Yeah.
What?
He
No,
does.
this is
Yeah.
the face of a proud leader.
Yeah, I love it. That's a good point.
It's so funny.
Yeah. I don't see anything wrong with her
I
taking on former beast pirates that weren't exactly aligned with Kaido's mission in the first place. I mean, Page One and Ulti were orphans. They didn't really have much of a choice to grow up there. And we seen Odin reform every bad case, every knucklehead in Wano, basically. So
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, if it, as long as it's not Jack, Queen, and King, because remember, the people
Right.
Wano specific talked about like those 3 ones were like the unforgivable, and they were the ones who were actually like really like doing the messed up stuff. So
Look, if Queen comes back into the story, he's gonna be
my
his
God.
own
Skinny.
absolute
Skinny.
unit, his own force of nature. He will play second fiddle to nobody. Like
Yeah.
I'm saying it right now.
we're not ready for Skinny Queen.
Yeah, if we get Frankie's dad back in action, oh man.
Not confirmed.
Oh, I love it.
I was looking because a couple issues of this cover story ago, we saw like a random number off in like the top left corner, and I was
Yeah.
like looking for like little more tidbits, and man, they really messed this room up. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't really find anything specifically of note here, but what's really interesting to me, and I'm probably just overcooking and like not, but like if you look at page 1's like drip, does this
Yep.
kind of look like Dragon's tattoo?
Kind of. And
Yeah, I
Ulti's
don't
also
know.
kind of looks like what Nami wore in Wano as well. With the flowers.
I don't know, but there's not too much else to note here, but like that's one thing that I did see. I'm just like, maybe there is some significance to the whole Revs thing that Kube was bringing up, or maybe not. I don't know. It's just something that I noticed. But yeah, they trashed this room, like these poor little lanterns. Moving on into the chapter though, we get right where we left off, straight into the thick of it. Gunko has shown up and is right in front of a few of the Colin pirates and their captain, which is crazy. But we see Usopp, Jinbei, Nami, and Captain Colin, the top one. We see them all absolutely flabbergasted. and everyone's just kind of flexing. And man, I just always forget how big Colin is.
Yeah, what a unit. I was gonna say the
This is
exact same thing.
crazy.
What a
It's
unit.
huge.
Yeah.
Kube looks like a child.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah. Usopp fit in that man's ear. Like, crazy. It's crazy. But yeah. They right off the gate, man, hitting us with the did you say human had me jumping. Like, I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
But to hear them be like so blatantly like, yeah, we are above you in some way. Crazy.
Well, yeah, she said Gunko like was like, yo, don't call me a human, I'm a god. And like that kind of I was like really hooked when I saw did you say humans, but the whole god line, I was honestly just kind of hoping this was when we get the reveal she's actually like cybernetic or something.
I know, that's what I mean.
You know,
I
we've
was
been spitting about that for a
first
while.
page. Yeah. No, it was good though. Like right into the gate, I wanted to see this happen, but I'm gonna speak on it a bit more when we get further down, because like you said, instantly she says, you know, we are gods, and Usopp is like, you know, we took one of those down back in Skypiea, you know, that was pre-time skip. We're not afraid of you.
This is sending so many people in the community up right now, because like as soon as NL is mentioned, I know like 30 different people who are like absolutely punching air right now, like yes. Like,
How many hundreds of chapters has it been since his name was even mentioned in the story?
Oh god.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and
So-
what it's funny, I'm not into spoilers, but what would make me laugh so hard is if officials came out and Anel wasn't even mentioned.
That would be
Sorry.
hilarious.
Go ahead, Cube.
So there's also actually that caught on the way Gonko responded. It kind of gave me the flamingo after he, as a kid, after he left Marijoa, and he was getting back home, and his dad went, "What's wrong?" He says, "They were making fun of me. They wouldn't believe me. I'm a god." And it kind of makes me think that there's very clear indoctrination, with also Warzone telling that they say stories about the D's. I think there's like some sort of like indoctrination where they try to force them to think that they're just different, you know.
Great.
Because the way she responded, almost like it was like her
Offensive.
existence. She was made to believe that she's different, she's special, you know. You can't say I'm not a god.
Yeah, I saw somebody over in Daxake's Discord. Huge shout out to that community. But they were posting in the theory zone there a panel of like when Fujitora was reacting, like, does the world government think that they could play the role of God? And like, so I'm just, there's been a few like mentions of like gods and devils and demons. Obviously, there's like the whole there's a lot to build up when you're talking about like how religion or like deities or devils might play a role in the One Piece world, especially since we've gotten the mural. But this is really interesting, especially when you go into the assumption that the world has been flipped upside down, so what they claim to be as gods is actually devils. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like Sabo's line that Cube likes to remind us, you know, I never thought that hell would be at the top of the world.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Roger was speaking facts when he said, "Let's turn the world upside down."
It makes you wonder, right?
That the gods are truly the devils. You know, it's like everything becomes so interesting now with this, especially with the last few arcs, when all the gods and devil stuff.
I love how Colin doesn't just talk the talk. He's here standing on business, like, you know, mouthing off to a god's night. He has the maturity of an 8-year-old here, and he's like, yeah, they're my friends, like, you're not gonna take them. Like, I love it. Colin is really awesome.
I love that he still thinks of them, like, even though they clearly didn't like him whenever you showed up at the school, he's still like, no, these are my homies, like, don't don't mess with them.
That's a great point, because last chapter he's been talking, oh yeah, they don't really like me, but I'm still gonna protect them. Like, God love them.
And that kind of gives me a little bit more, I don't know if it's like legitimate characterization, but it gives me the insinuation that the reason he wants to continue to try to be a warrior is to protect them so that they have the freedom to choose to be nerds.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Imagine if he was wise like that. Oh, come on, man. That's some depth. That'd be great.
Yeah,
I
I
love
like
that.
it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But speaking of the possibility of the Holy Knights and Gunko being like more devilish, and they're claiming to be gods, we actually get a little bit of her motivation, or I don't know, like her prerogative here, as the conversation kind of continues, and is ruthless.
She's heartless, man.
There's a lot of people who are like Gunko for Naka, but no, I don't know, man. Like,
I'll fix her, but like this is becoming a steadily increasing challenge here.
I love the characterization we're getting, and I keep comparing these antagonists to the likes of Doflamingo. And nowhere do I think that Doflamingo is a good person. I think he's a good character,
Right.
though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but these types of like speech bubbles where she's talking about like how she doesn't care about the lives of a few children,
It's crazy.
and like you should know your place and stuff like that. Like this is just really, it's interesting to see, and she kind of, we'll get into it more as we go along through the chapter, but like some of the things that she says, I'm gonna pay very, very close attention to, because she be yapping this chapter. You know what I mean?
Well, honestly,
Yeah, I
not
think
to like derail, I'm sorry there, but like there's a little cut here. We see something with Frankie, and I think we can go right back to that after this, because I do think you touched on something important there. Is the conversation is just continuous through the chapter, even though we do get cutaways to other visuals. This conversation doesn't break, and she does tell him, like, you know, I don't really understand the concept of a hostage at all. That wouldn't bother me. This is telling me she doesn't have compassion for anything. So there's nobody in her life that she could be bothered to do something she didn't want to for. And I found it very interesting.
We all now know which will that Gunko inherited. The will of Frieza. That's a Frieza level of...
No, it's
of
almost a
action.
disconnect though, and I don't want to get like, we do this often and dig into characters before we know everything, but it feels like a disconnect from all emotion entirely. Like she doesn't understand the concept of a hostage. Like, what do you mean you don't understand? Like, she doesn't understand the benefit to using them. She doesn't understand why it would be painful. Like,
Well, I think we said she didn't understand the concept of a hostage. I think she didn't understand, like, why can't I just go ahead and kill them?
exactly.
That's
right?
how
the
twisted I
value-
thought she was.
Yeah,
the
she
value
doesn't.
that a life can hold.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
But
doesn't.
also, like,
It's pretty wild. It's pretty dark stuff. What's
Yeah.
happening?
and she, I don't know, I feel like it goes to show that I know there was a theory for a while that, like, she was, like, a slave, essentially, being
Mhm.
forced to do all this. But no, she seems pretty willing to be a god's knight and
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
act out on this, that she's not being controlled through
Yeah,
Emu or some other means, that she is acting,
Psychotic.
so to speak, on her own.
Yeah. There was a something like that bouncing around where it's like maybe there's like a bit of a split personality or a multiple
Mhm.
personality kind of thing going on, where it's like she's not always necessarily behind the wheel of her own thoughts or actions, and like because the two eyes and apparently some character that she's based off of, I haven't dive too deep into it or anything like that, so I'm unaware of the full depth of it, but I could still see it being that I wouldn't close the door on any theories necessarily because of what she's saying, but it is still really interesting in that I still feel like we're really early into this arc. So
Right.
this to me is like the tip of the iceberg.
a
You know what
lot
I
of
mean?
a
And
lot of this
Sure.
character for how much we're into it. You know what I mean? Every chapter, I think Dak pointed out, it's been like 14 chapters in a row with something to do with Gunko.
And it's usually Sanji who melts these icy women's hearts, so she hasn't met him yet.
Oh man, I don't know if he's ready.
Yo.
But you mentioned some of these cutaways. Yeah, it was really interesting. getting to see what Ripley and Frankie and Lilith and Bonnie were up to.
Yes, they're cheering for him. Like, this is the Frankie moments we missed. Like, we haven't got much of these. We got a little one back in Egghead when he squared off with Cincinnati, but aside from that, this is wild. And I do think this tells us a little bit about the power level of these creatures. I don't think they're too hard to take down, but I don't think they stay down. And there's other panels in this chapter that suggest they get back up after they're defeated too.
What's crazy to me is that these creatures have the will of D, it seems, because this cloud thing got taken out. It's got a big old smile on its face.
Yeah,
I mean, that's wild.
Is that what the
right?
giants are afraid of? Is the will of D?
Yeah, for real.
Oh man.
But no, seeing Frankie dubs, like, you know, he should have more dubs. He's a character that
I'm just glad.
you know, had
Go
his
ahead,
showing
sorry.
against a Toby Ropo last arc. So give him a bit, give him a bit of love.
Yeah, that triceracopter stuff. That's no joke. Am I right, guys? But
I love the
I'm just-
Triceratopter.
It probably would have beat Sanji, but I'm just saying.
Oh my god. I'm just really glad we don't see any major explosions at like whatever that ancient lab was. You know, it's still intact despite Frankie's best efforts. Nobody let him push any buttons. You know, he just looks.
Just
He's
wait till he
finally
sees
got,
that
like-
skull button.
He's finally got a positive ratio. You know what I mean? Like, it used to be like a terrible KD ratio with labs, but now he's like up 1. You know, we're doing
And I
good.
think it's so cute too, seeing Ripley just like this giant woman just with him like a little action figure.
You haven't
It
met
reminds me,
my
like,
secret
y'all seen-
weapon. Like, pulls him out. Like,
Have y'all seen
What-
Toy
what-
Soldiers back in like the 90s
Yes.
or whatever?
Oh,
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Throwback.
yeah, dude.
Also, there is something that's quite interesting. Is even though you remember her shirt, she has the OG Giant Warrior Pirates flag, the one of Dorian Broggy as her shirt. The
Oh
way
yeah.
she's acting kind of makes it seem like she might be more like she's learned about them, but she was never a pirate because.
Dude, she's
mean,
a
we
pirate
see
at
it
heart.
when-
As soon
Yeah,
as
hard,
Frankie
like,
mentioned that
she's
you could
not
sell
seen
the Atom wood, she's like, huh, really?
Yeah.
You know
No,
that?
I mean like she
That's
she
interesting.
wasn't she was not part of like that group of people who like they all want to do is fight because her
Yeah.
go-to is to protect the kids and run backwards while Frankie goes forward. So there's definitely that more like the history aspect of the Giant Warrior Pirates and not the actual Giant Warrior Pirates that went to.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I don't think Ripley's that old.
Yeah. No, she's 80 years old, but there was that comment, I'm one of the last of the great,
Yeah,
warrior race of Elbaph.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because of that comment.
Also, this panel where we see the cloud thing being taken down and little tiny Frankie being held like an action figure. This is like these like zigzag. This is like lightning bolts coming off of this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It just literally looks like, I don't know.
Like
Normally
they're
Oda has
physical.
yeah, it's like it almost looks like an appendage or
Right?
something like that. Like Oda has a
Oh,
very
like it's a
distinct
part
way.
of the cloud itself, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it reminds me of exactly how it's depicted on the mural.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Because
It's
like
just, like,
hockey
tangible.
lightning and like weather
Yeah.
lightning, like with like Raijin Island, we've seen it, and he's drawn it in very distinct and different ways than this. This looks like some vestigial like cosmetic, that's like actually a part of it, but it does actually look like exactly what was striking the tree in the mural.
Mhm.
And I know that like some people have kind of focused a little bit more than I have on the art, like that the children drew that helped bring these that may or may not have helped bring these fears to life through Killingham's power. But I was kind of discounting the art aspect and just like it was more about the mental. This makes me think that the art might actually play a little bit more of a factor.
Yeah,
So this is like a
Yeah.
small touch,
I agree.
Yeah, I do hope we see eventually, because we saw in Egghead that Frankie explained that the Sunny could fly with the power of Kola, and now we see Lilith seeing Frankie essentially use one of Vegapunk's inventions, Kazari's laser. And I really want to see that conversation where they talk about how he's able, or at least mention her questioning or asking Frankie how he can power a laser through cola.
Oh yeah,
That's what
that's
he's
smart.
running off of.
Smart.
400
Yeah.
chapters later.
Yeah, well, we also just got that in the anime too, and it was actually a real exciting moment for Vegapunk. He was like, "Well, genius!" Like as soon as like Frankie proposed the idea of using cola as a fuel source, he was like, "I can understand that." So that's really fun. But I do want to touch on the power level of these things a bit, because I think we kind of guessed how it would work based on what children understand of these things. So to a child, like their big fear of a storm is, okay, it's a big scary cloud, but that's all it really was. You know what I mean? It was just a big scary cloud. The fact that Frankie one-tapped it, it probably tells us that a lot of these things are limited by the imagination of the, I guess, the dreamer that gets pulled from.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I remember last chapter or a couple of chapters ago where they talked about when the giant showed up. They're like, man, I'm so glad they don't actually know
Right.
Mhm.
just how strong the Loki thing is, or it should be easier.
Mhm.
But on the counter side, like the more you know about it, the less you fear it. So it could become weaker in the same vein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
I
an
don't know,
interesting
man.
dynamic.
I'm fully convinced that mom, that's probably the strongest one.
Yeah. The most realistic.
Honestly, yeah.
They have the most reason to be afraid. Like, they
Yeah.
know what's up. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
that's,
I
I'm
can
calling
totally
it
see
right
that.
now. That's the strongest one.
It's quite interesting because what you guys are talking right now is specifically is what Jupiter said when he explained what he's heard about the Nika fruit in Wano. Limited by his imagination, and it says that the power grants you
Oh yeah, yeah.
strength that just goes over your own imagination. Like he
Mhm.
connected both of them to imagination. So you guys talking about like the powers is just connected to the imagination. And I always like the idea that the rope that Emmet released was that powerful, not just because it was Joy Boy's strongest hockey, but because Emmet believes so as well. You know what I mean? The power of manifestation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Bonnie's
could
fruits
see.
as well.
Oh, for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
Like I could
Yep.
see it with a few devil fruits, and a few like the ultimate extent of hockey for sure. I'm just fully convinced it's just you're just using Toon Force, like imagination power, but like like Bugs
Manifestation
Bunny
and
and
stuff. Yeah.
SpongeBob and shit. Yeah, but like with devil fruits, Bonnie's is a good example, and then I think that like legitimately, it might be also like a qualifier of a mythical fruit, because
Right.
myth is literally in the name, and it's like, what do we really know about these figures? It's just what we can imagine. So
And think
with
about Law
every mythical
as a great example that like he's seen Corazon's fruit and he applied it to his own. Like that's just
yeah,
application from
I think that-
experience.
for an awakening, I could see a lot of different, devil fruit users, or even like I said, ultimate like peak hockey users, just tapping into imagination power. But like
Mhm.
I do think that the fruits that are typically classified as mythical probably have a bit of an easier time, just because there's just you're kind of inclined to color outside of the lines when you
Yeah.
hear that
Mhm.
word. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. It's accepted. It's an accepted part of that fruit. Like the fact that a phoenix would come back to life would be an accepted part of the myth to that fruit.
Yeah.
So the regeneration powers almost come innately. We were talking about devil fruits
if
a
you
lot
were-
earlier about that kind of aspect as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you were to like tell a fib 800 years ago and enough people repeated it and things like that, that now becomes myth, right? So it's like effectively it is like a snowball effect of that type of imagination harnessing, but instead of just yours in the moment, it's like across, like maybe on a global scale across like centuries, which is crazy to think about. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not trying to like get like into, I have a lot of theories about how that could all play out, and I don't want to get into it all right now, but I could see that being, because like especially like the latest mythical Zoan that we just got introduced to with the Kirin,
Mhm.
it's straight up imagination based. it's I don't know, there's a lot of the building blocks there, and I'm convinced that endgame hockey is going to be similar.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
if
like
you think about
hidden
it,
knowledge, you know what I mean?
yeah, if you think about it, what Vex is saying, that could explain why every Delphoid user will say, I'm a rubber man, I'm a Moshi man. And then Sabo even said when he ate the fruit, oh wait, I'm burning. Oh wait, it's just in my mind. It doesn't actually burn.
Hmm.
And then he makes a thing of being a fireman.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be, placebo effect, But you believe
yeah.
that you're made of rubber, thus you're made of rubber. But it's to a point where the will of the fruit, like it's so strong that you actually believe so you will become so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I've
can
always
see that.
believed that devil fruits were in some way a form of hockey. So
Yeah.
this all kind of ties into that. Like, you think of the will of the devil fruits, that could have been someone's will to be this type of, rubber man, fireman, memory man.
Yeah.
Just
Totally
condensed
agree
into a
with that.
physical
When-
form that you can now eat and transfer
When
to
we
someone.
when we were in Egghead and we were figuring out how Vegapunk had figured out more or less how to recreate devil fruit powers through technology, I don't exactly remember, and I'm not comfortable enough to paraphrase it, but they had said something that made me firmly believe that devil fruit is simply just a technology that harnesses some other force like hockey. You know what I mean? And so, like, assuming
Yeah.
that hockey is like the more natural implementation, whereas there are obviously technological, ways to harness this as well. The devil fruit to me seems like a little bit of the middle of the road, where you get a little bit of that natural force like hockey and a little bit of that technological force, where it's something more engineered. So it's like a little of column A, a little column B.
Yeah,
could
and that would
definitely see that.
explain kind of why zone fruits are the easiest to recreate. It's a little harder for Paramecias, and why he can't figure out, the will of elements essentially
Right.
for the Logia fruits to replicate.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't wait to see what more plays out with Lilith and the little new makeshift lab, like once
Yeah.
the smoke clears. But before we get through into that, we got to figure out this whole Gunko situation, and we cut back to this where Nami is noticing that what Gunko mentions Marie Joie
Well,
or the Holy
yes,
Land.
we have that as well. But I think this is probably the height of the chapter. And I know that it's going to seem anticlimactic to people, but we're talking about hidden knowledge. And the Straw Hats shouldn't understand this. But Brooke seems to know about an awful lot about the ranking system of the Gods Knights. Can somebody help me with this? I have some ideas, but this is crazy to me.
Yeah, it almost infers that, like, the Gods Knights aren't just celestial dragons, they're above celestial dragons.
Right. And like,
And it's
we have the past.
So-
So me and Cube we've had multiple conversations about how Brooke obviously knows something from his previous life that we don't get the full story to. We've got it arc after arc now, and here's just another instance of it. But I think he was a really prominent individual for whatever kingdom he was a part of, where he learned fencing, and we can get into like trying to
Why-
extrapolate that. But
Yeah,
There's
why did he
so
have to
much.
become a pirate? Did his country have an encounter with the Gods Knights?
that's a good question. Right.
we don't know.
Yeah, was it a complete like he was running away from something, or was it, I don't know.
You see,
Perhaps he's seen something.
I always imagined. Oh, go ahead, Cube. I'm gonna go off on a tangent.
No, it's based off the
No, it's
discussion
great
with,
because this is huge.
in Shula Bark, he recognizes the island from being from the West Blue because the castle. He recognized the castle, knows about God's Night, and he knew about the way of operation. Remember, like in chapter 2, he was the one who told everyone there were more than 2 people. Keep your eyes out by adjusting the number manifestation. And I think Nak and Lucas have been talking separately to me about it, but it does seem to be the case. Is whatever kingdom he was a knight for, at one point his kingdom went to reveries and he went with them. 'Cause
Yes,
reverie would be the
definitely
only
an
place.
option.
It would be the only place because of the God's Knights. I do not think that God's Knight just all kingdoms are aware of God's Knight that loosely. I do feel like to be able to know God's Knight to that thing, he would have seen some actions, and I think, or it could be when his kingdom was disowned by God's Knight.
Right.
But I think he would be saying more stuff about it, like it would be trauma for him. So it just could be him knowing about them and hearing about their exploits at the Reverie.
Well, there is a question mark applied to his shock here. Like, it's almost as if he knows of the God's Knights, but he didn't know if they were a thing or not. So that made me believe that perhaps he was just one of, you know how all the kings bring 2 guards with them to the Reverie. I wonder if he was one of the guards, and kind of the word on the street is like, oh, if you do anything here, you'll be crossing the God's Knights. But that would imply the God's Knights have been around long before God Valley or whatever. Long before that.
I would anticipate they have been, and like with the whole structure of the world government being something that's centuries old, I can imagine most of the Holy Land's, cultural, infrastructure has also been in place for that long. My kind of this is gonna sound crazy, guys, but
no, let's go.
Hear me out. Let me cook. So I always kind of imagined that Brook might have been from the place in the West Blue that was mentioned in the human auction house, where that guy who was an intern who was getting sold off was he was said to have been from a country of musicians. But then you think about maybe the opposite of that, and that maybe Brook was from somewhere where music was not allowed. Like, think like Footloose or like Rush 2112. You know what I mean? And that's why he had to get out and go and shake a tail feather somewhere else. Maybe he had heard of that kingdom full of musicians, and that's what inspired him to set sail originally. So maybe he's from an oppressed land, and when he found these songs, we hear of, in Film Red, there was Taught Musica, which is a piece of music that brought kingdoms to ruin and to crumble and things like that, and could have heralded like the end of an era and things like that. And it's just like a full-on ancient weapon adjacent power. And then we have Bink Sake, which a lot of people speculate tells the tale of parts of the Void Century or the Aftermath, right? And then we have maybe even a song that tells the tale of the God's Knights. So I don't know. I could see him getting his information from a few different ways. I could see his backstory, being a few different things, but it's really interesting to me that a lot of people have also drawn small parallels between Gunko and Uta, and I'm not fully on board with that, but it's really, really interesting. And this panel blew my mind 7 different ways whenever Brooks said that, like, God's Knights, just like straight up those words came out of his lips, if he had lips. Yo ho ho. So I'm pretty hyped. This is crazy.
But yeah, I am wondering if there's that Dressrosa storyline, Kingdom connect to Reverie, something happens, the toy soldier Kyros is for, type of thing. Because what would be interesting with the whole Brook thing is when the Crucial Tribe, when they met Luffy, they explained the origin of piracy. Piracy are just people who basically the government had opposed the government, so they labeled them as this way. The same thing with Kuma. He only became a pirate when, with Sorbet Kingdom. And they wanted to destroy his, because he was trying to help, the kingdom. And he also became like de facto king, even though he was not the king. So I'm wondering if it's like, that's how he became a rumber pirate. Whatever happened to his kingdom, he was like, the outcome of it.
Interesting. No, that's possible.
It's really, I can't wait, because
that would suggest that the entire
yeah.
Rumbar pirates though were like just outcasts from a country that was kicked out of the Reverie. Is that kind of the angle you're going?
Or the survivors, or and they did have a quest. Maybe they were trying to do something for their kingdom to help them out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I can see that angle.
Loki said that they just wanted to make the children of the world happy with their songs.
I mean, sounds pretty heroic to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one way or the other, like, we know that we'll get a little bit more about Brook once he reunites with Laboon in the end game. But I am very curious, and I don't need it, but I would hope that if we do get it, it's like in the main panels and not something that gets SBS to like Zoro's whole thing, you know. But who knows?
I hope if we don't get it in the main story, we don't get it at all, and he's just this ambiguous mystery forever.
Yeah, he just stays enigmatic. Yeah, I'm fine with that as well.
Right.
Yeah, we get this comment from Brooke, and then Usopp clapping back immediately, stating that like he's not cool with Gonko and these, people making these kids into their interns and bringing them back to the Holy Land. So Usopp actually standing on business. That's kind of crazy.
Yep.
Like, I'm here for it.
I know. I was so proud of my boy here.
Dude, he's been standing up to Gonko this whole time and has not backed down once.
Yeah. So there's one thing I want to say before we go away. It's another time where there's a celestial dragon. If Gonko is a celestial dragon or not, because she didn't have the saint in her name, and they diverted it again. Just a food for thought. They never answered to the question. You're a celestial dragon. She's worse. She's a god's knight. Well, we know what god's knights are, but it's it's quite interesting because they're
Oh,
not
you want
answering
confirmation if
or
she's
not.
dragon or not? Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah, because the dragons we know are all mutated from years of you know what, but
Or looking
these
east.
seem like, yeah, right. Hello. Oh. But yeah, this arrow stuff, man. I know Kush, you have something you'd like to say about this, but I just want to point out one thing. If this is just what we were saying earlier, like extensions of Emu's power, this would be very reminiscent to the arrow strike that stabbed Sabo when he approached Emu. And it really makes me wonder if there is personality behind her or if she's just a conduit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the interesting, like, I just love the more we get with Gonko. She seems to be a more interesting character, but also her devil fruit power is just getting more and more overpowered. Because now we find out she can redirect, not just, or she can't, she's not just only, telegraphing her attacks and like they do happen. She can now change the trajectory of other people's attacks. So we see Nami unleash Zeus at her and she just flings it right back at her.
Yeah, it's wild. And like as she's doing it, she makes this cryptic speech. The world was meant to simply vanish one day. That's how it was supposed to go. However, some humans came along, realized what was stored, made sure the entire world would know. It's just, she seems like this archetype of a character focused on fate. Like things have to go the way it's predicted, or it's not right. And I feel Usopp is going to be the perfect foil here. That's a great point, because Van Auger had the same type of sleeve there when we first were introduced to him, and he had the Mark fruit. He was the intruder trying to take someone from the city. This is an intruder trying to take someone from the country. I think you hit that nail there.
So we also have to give a shout out to the symbolism in Nami's attack. When she was a child, she was oppressed and put into internship by a fishman type shark. And now to protect the kids, she created a feat that we've not had with lightning. We haven't seen since now. So I want to give props to Nami. Thunder Shark is pretty OP.
It is pretty savage, even though it got redirected.
Have we seen Zeus take on a shape like that before? Like, I wonder how that's working. Like, is that something Zeus did, or she can now reshape Zeus herself? Because we have all those parallels and like stuff with Big Mom, like she could control the homies with the paper. Like there's all these sorts of connections with Nami and Big
I don't
Mom.
remember Zeus taking on another form like this. I know he's gotten like small and big, but I don't remember him like tangibly becoming a different shape like that. Yeah, that might be the first time.
And it's hard to make me think of a bit of like I have to mention it. The post Ennis Lobby arc, where we found out that during that short trip, the Frankie and the crew were able to already work of some strategy on that, on that ship, and they had all like, the docking things that they had, because that
Hey,
feat
yo.
has only been
Pause.
seen in Wano. No, what? Okay, yeah. The feat,
Pop
the
up.
feat,
Go crazy. Go.
the feats that Nami just showed is stuff that Luffy and Zoro learn in their fight with their opponents, using elements and taking
Yeah.
a form. So I'm wondering if it's
Hmm.
like behind the scenes, the Zoro training. Now that he's reached a certain point, he's not only training himself, he's training certain Straw Hats, and maybe Luffy learning
Yeah.
pointers for some of them. Could also be
I
that.
think this is actually ties into what I was gonna bring up about Gunko and their power as well. Is like, honestly, the closer we get to the finish line and whatnot, I could see these multiple power systems that Oda has set up so loosely. And it's not, I'm not dogging on him. I think it's beautiful because, like, in a world without boundaries like this, there's no lines that you have to color outside of. You can just do whatever the hell you want. And I think that we start to see some of those lines that maybe have some of the people of the world believe to be true to not be true. And with what Gunko is doing here, I'm not so positive that the arrows or the devil fruit, which are a product of the the arrows are a product of, is what is dictating the trajectory of these attacks or anything like that, or if it's maybe that in tandem with some sort of conqueror's hockey. We don't get like the whole black lightning thing or anything like that, but I don't think that we need that. I think people who cling to that argument are like, you got to be a little bit more open-minded when it comes to, especially the end game is the point I'm trying to drive home. But like, observation hockey is being able to like embolden your mind and like those senses, and then obviously armament hockey is to be able to strengthen your body or imbue that into like a weapon that's immediately adjacent to you. But whenever you're affecting more of the world around you and even other people, that is typically indicative of conqueror's hockey. And so I'm wondering if, because we mentioned getting multiple devil fruit users working in tandem and how much more exponentially powerful that can be of an antagonistic front, or even of our own individual crew members, right? But if you're also blending in like seamless hockey usage with devil fruit, like we've seen it a few times before, like Enel, who was mentioned this chapter, by the way, was able to utilize their devil fruit in tandem with their mantra, which is just a primitive form of hockey. And there's been a few other, things that you could argue as well, like Fujitora is somebody who uses their hockey most likely in tandem with their devil fruit, the gravity powers of the Zushi fruit. So there's like, obviously I could see this being more than what we maybe predicted to be at face value. And that goes in with what Nami is doing as well. Because I know, Chestnut Tanuki, huge friend of the channel, is somebody who fully believes, and I as well, and a lot of other people in the community believe that Nami will get Conqueror's hockey by the end, if she doesn't already have it, especially with post Wano, when Jinbei was joking about like the punch, like the fist of love type of attack that she hits Luffy with. And if Luffy's supposed to be like, oh, he's gear 5, he's the sun god, Nika, he's the warrior of liberation, how is Nami somebody who's just like, she's just like she's just a simple plain old lady, right? Like, how is she able to deal such lasting damage to him? I think that this might be like her shaping Zeus in the way that she is. This might be like actually our first glimpses of her hockey affecting the things around her outside of just Luffy.
So, everything being said, I'm wondering now the form of her shark. The reason why she could use mini attacks, she followed that shark, right? And the way she did it. What if because Enel was mentioned as well? That's actually
crazy. Yeah.
Because we've seen that many times in the story that some people will talk about something, Luffy will think about it, and then oh wait, that's a callback to that. Like when he talked about Perona's devil fruit. Then the next chapter, both him and Kizaru did something very similar that we saw in the post and his lobby arc. So I'm wondering if it's a similar thing,
Bro.
Yeah, I'm fast.
Crazy.
Fast.
I'm really enjoying this
Crazy.
this post egghead art.
We got we got this funny little gag though. Did anybody else think this was Nami at first? Because I was like, oh damn.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
that was hilarious. That was hilarious.
That got
She
me,
does the
man.
gird.
He
She
got
does the
me.
gird, thumbs up, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, oh,
Mac got me so confused. Like, oh, is it Nami or Nico Olivia? I said, what do you mean? And it's true. He does. Because
no,
Nami
not
does
that.
You're
I
talking
thought
about the
Nami got hit
bones.
by the. Yeah, I thought Nami was hit by the lightning at
Ah.
first, and I was like,
yeah,
oh, you
everyone
got me.
was.
Like, you actually
Yeah,
got me
me
good,
too.
man. I was like, oh, you silly bastard. Zeus freaking out. Nami, I'm so sorry. Oh, it's too funny. But yeah, Usopp showing the business, giving us a full-on skull grass bomb straight to Gunko's face. Haven't seen that move since I think we might have got one in Wano. I'm not sure, but I know for sure we had one in Dressrosa.
Yeah, I think we got one in Wano.
Yeah, so like props
And
to
he
see
doesn't
the
just shoot
pop
her. He
green.
says, probably the first time we've seen Usopp say these words, "We're not afraid
Right?
of the celestial
Let's
dragons."
go.
Really?
Let's
Take
go.
that.
Hold
Bam.
on, no, I'm waiting for the officials.
Yeah. Fair.
Sir,
Fair.
I want to give this man his flowers so desperately. Don't get me wrong, I totally get it. Where so many people in the community are coming from, and I'm wanting to sing his praises, but I've been hurt
That's fair.
before by the
That's fair.
scanlations, so I'm waiting. But yes, this is very potentially immense for his character arc, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the compassion
Uh,
comes out of him right after. So it's hilarious
something-
at both times.
The way that Goku like evaporates and re-evaporates is basically the reverse of what happens in post and his lobby arc. Man, it's a big,
My
big
God.
chapter today with this arc. Where when someone loses his shadow, remember when someone's shadow was taken and they're
Oh,
under the
yeah.
sun? It's literally the reverse, which is interesting.
Oh, Thriller Bark.
Yeah, post and his lobby arc.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of this stuff, a lot of this stuff, excuse me, will come back to the shadow powers, I think Moria, that's why he had a hit put out on him. We found out Marineford as soon as they were like, you know, there's a threat of us losing this fruit now too. They were like, we got to get it back in our hands, and I think that's a really important
you
fruit
wanna-
for the end game.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to make another parallel to exactly this chapter and these powers that we're seeing, is like you mentioned the like what King Recon, absolute goat in the community, friend of the channel, likes to call the YouTube thumbnail attack that Emu hit Sabo with with the arrow. That it's not just reminiscent of this that we're seeing with Gunko, but we actually first saw that type of attack implemented in Marineford when Gecko Moria had used his shadow powers to, it's called like, it was like a lizard tail. So it looked
Yeah.
exactly the same. It was like a little black arrow, and to stab through Little Oars Jr.
Right.
He's just like, yo, let me show you how to really kill a dude, which
Yeah.
is crazy. And
then
that
obvi-
was shortly after that is when we see the scene with Doflamingo and Moria talking about like, oh, hey, I got an order from higher up.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you know
like,
who
so that's-
wants this. That's the thing. That was a real
Yeah,
weird
it's crazy.
interaction. Yeah.
And also, I would like the Gonko using her arrows like some sort of like stairs or elevator to reach Usopp. Kind of makes you think of in post and his lobby arc, where the only way to reach Ors, Frankie created those weird, staircase. Remember?
Frankie
That's
Skywalk. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
Skywalk. Yeah, it's like it is a callback. I mean, I know Vex is excited because it's his favorite arc, but it's definitely a
Hey,
callback in this chapter.
Everything comes back to post and his lobby. We all know it,
He said it. Oh, nice. This is the greatest day ever.
Oh, that's so funny.
Let's trademark it.
We're kind of blowing right past the fact that the God's Knights, or at least Gunko, do in fact have the regen abilities that we thought was
Right.
only specific to the
Yeah.
Gorosei, and they're not just devil fruits, but they're devil forms, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that this regen is separate from
It's
those forms
absolutely
and
separate,
devil fruit
right.
abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
a
had
huge-
mentioned. this was a few months ago. Now it feels weird saying that, but this was a few months ago when we had seen oh man, this was a long time ago. But like I remember when we first got like the Saturn not being regenerated and just turning into dust and whatnot, and we were wondering if when we get introduced to the God's Knights, if they would have the same regenerative powers, because we noticed that Figurlin Garling is not timeless. He has clearly aged in the past 38 years versus what we saw in God Valley and what we see now as he attains a position of Gorosei. So I was keeping the regeneration on the table and the yokai forms or powers because we still knew and still do know so little about the God's Knights or Holy Knights, but I don't know if they are timeless to the same degree that the Gorosei are, because we saw Saturn 200 years ago, still looking fresh to death, and then Garling has aged like milk in the past 38 years. So
No, I'm so happy you touched on this, because I think this is a part of how Emu gets such undying loyalty. I think there is an aspect of first an invulnerability offered to these people when they become God's Knights, and then an invincibility when they become Gorosei, like a timeless agelessness. And you know, offering these godlike powers would incite worship, would get people to follow your cause with no questions asked, no matter the source of the power. And I don't think it's a godly power. I think there is a dark side to Emu's powers, but this is how she gains the followers, or he, because we don't know yet. But I think there is like a reason why they keep fighting to become Gorosei. They keep wanting to impress, because that means they become eternal then.
So I do have a thing about the regeneration. The rest I do agree, but the regeneration, because there's a thing in common between the God's Knight and this arc and the Gorosei, and they all came through the summoning circle. And it's something that Perona has talked about in her asshole form as long as, so I'm wondering
in her what form?
Astral. What did you hear?
Oh, okay. I heard something completely different.
Continue.
Okay. So I'm wondering at least that regeneration stuff, and we saw what happened is when in Egghead, when the attack was much stronger on the on the Gorosei, they all sent back to where they were. So I'm wondering if that is connected to the summoning circles, being sent to a summoning circle.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe the intangible part.
Actually,
yeah, the
I actually
intangible
have
part,
I have a huge theory on that as well that I'd like to kind of spit. It definitely ties into what you're saying, Cube, and it's that like I feel like so an idea that I've been pushing around is that Emu doesn't actually exist in this world, and that all we see of them in this world is like a reflection or a shadow, but their true form exists in another world, similar to like Top Musica in Film Red, or like if you're like a Magic the Gathering nerd, like an Eldrazi, like you're only able to like take out like an avatar of them if you take out like the form that we witness, you know, sitting on top of the empty throne. But and that might lead to the regenerative aspect, is that like if you were to like see somebody standing near a lake and you just attack at their reflection, it's just gonna send up ripples, and then the reflection will again solidify, and it's like, you know, it would appear to be like regeneration if that's all you had seen, right? So I'm like wondering if possibly Emu and maybe even the Gorosei are beings that are existing entirely somewhere else, and the images that we're seeing of them and their actual physical influence in the world is simply through these avatars that are only a fragment of the actual real thing. And through traveling through the abyss, you can attain a similar so if you're still actually like locked into this world, like we can assume we literally got like Somers' couch that came with him, you know what I mean? So like we do assume that they were existing in this realm. And so like I was thinking that there could be something specific about like the empty throne or the room of authority or the butterfly garden or something like that. But now seeing other people travel through these circles, it's really interesting. And I'm wondering that if humans who are still bound to this world travel through it, they only get some of the powers that the abyss might grant you, but like people who reside on the other side are not going to be. I don't know, it's not like a fully fleshed out theory, but it's something that I was thinking, and I still think it's probably true of Emu, but maybe not the Gorosei, definitely not the God's Knights, but there's still like maybe some side effects to traveling through these magic circles.
So do you think the regen is part of the mark, the abyssal mark, and that being able to regen being like, as Kube was saying, like an astral form almost, that's what allows them to travel through, because they have to lose that physical form in order to travel.
What I'm kind of thinking is that wherever they were when they were summoned, that was their true forms, and they were still on the blue planet, right? Up in the Holy Land or something. But like, instead of us getting that physical version of them brought through the little wormhole, that physical version of them could be existing now within the abyss still, and we're only dealing with reflections.
Interesting.
Yeah, because
or shadows.
I mean, I know Vex would talk about it even before that, and I had a similar idea, but because I've always said it does not make sense to have an order to not tell which ship is Saturn on, but then broadcast his arrival on Egghead. You know what I mean? It kind of makes you think of what Corona was saying. As long as her original body is undisturbed, she could be in astral form. But once her original body is disturbed, the form disappears. So I'm wondering if it's the same thing. That's why they said about Saturn. Like, the moment if the ship was attacked while they were doing their thing, maybe Saturn, each of the Gorosei would be sent back to where they started. You know, fast travel.
Yeah. I know, Kush, you had something you wanted to say on that in particular. Did you get a chance?
No. I just want to note that like this shot of Gunko pointing the arrow at Usopp and like sliding on it is just such a cool angle and shot. Like I've noted before that like ever since Egghead, Oda has just like stepped up his paneling and just art in general.
Oh yeah, it is a badass shot, and there's a lot packed in here. But I love this line that she says, like, once it starts, it cannot be undone, because I think ultimately she's talking about the prophecy, but you could also like apply that to what she thinks of her power. And like, once she lays in motion her attack, it's not going to be undone. And to be Usopp clashing against this, the one who breaks everybody's expectations, I think is perfect. And when one of her attacks ultimately doesn't go the way it's intended, it's going to break her whole worldview. Like, everything in her life has been fate and predetermined, and she can kind of see what's going to happen. And when she can't predict what happens with Usopp, maybe through some observation Hockey Bloom perhaps, but I would love to see this be the fight for Usopp, just from the clash of predetermining, or like she knows destiny, and then Usopp breaking all forms of predetermined destiny. But yeah, I love the little interaction. I love how Brooke says an attack that telegraphs itself. How absurd. And yeah, we move into this giant panel of the monsters we seen get wiped out last chapter, right back into the fray, attacking the ship. Dude, this is what I was talking about earlier.
Looks like a menace.
I know, right? They are so badass.
Of this thing just hanging from his sword. They're just laughing and having a good old time.
But once again, though, we're getting these background shots, and the conversation hasn't stopped. This is Oda being like, this, what she's saying is serious. This is like the Vegapunk message type of paneling. or we're getting
Ooh.
like background shots,
Yeah.
but
7 more
what-
chapters.
but
7
what
more
Gunko
chapters
says,
of Gunko monologuing.
right, is like bolded
Give it
and
to me,
like
baby.
serious. Like this Oda wants us to pay attention, and she says something
Yeah.
here, like it is said the giant's allegiance will greatly shape how the conflict unfolds. I think this is ancient weapon talk. This is like how the fishmen, whoever the fishmen are assigned to, will change the flow. Like there has to be a giant that controls
Yeah.
one of the ancient weapons. I know they're a fantastic fighting force, but there has to be more to this line, don't you think?
Yeah, I specifically remember us talking about how obviously we have our iteration of the mural and how we anticipate that. And by we, I mean us, the community, as well as, you know, the people who are opposing the world government and whatever these monstrous beings were and whatnot, like even in the One Piece world itself on the blue planet. And it's this is our side of it, but the world government might have their own prophecies. If this is cyclical, they might have their own version of the mural, telling them bits and pieces of the past and or the future. And I think that it's really interesting because they would both be more or less unadulterated, because why, like, I mean, if you're truly in the know, to be able to monologue for this whole chapter like Gunko is, I'm more inclined to believe that you know more than like Shalria, who was confused because she's like, Void Century, what's that? Like, and that's like a normal celestial dragon, but we're talking about like a god's knight, a holy knight here. So I'm more inclined to believe that they have their own like versions of the unadulterated truth of the world,
The
past,
prophecy or whatever you
present,
want to
and
call
future.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so like I think they have their own tellings of how the cycles will, you know, play out, and what their thoughts on the third world and how it will unfold and whatnot. And so like that's really interesting because we see in the mural how it ends with like in the third world, like surely they will meet again. Well, their version of the tellings could be like they cannot meet again or something like so. Like their actions, like Gunko says, this doesn't make sense to me. I'm just following an order. So this is clearly coming from either the Gorosei or Imu themselves, something that's a higher rank than even the Gods Knights, who call themselves gods. So I'm assuming that they have their own prophecy, and it's really, I can't wait to potentially 600 chapters from now and get more on that, you know?
Please.
Quite
I'm waiting patiently.
So I had a similar thought as you, Vex, and I do think it's because of Garling becoming a Gorosei, because he received Imu's orders and the Gorosei didn't. So it kind of makes me think that it could also be an Imu order. With also the previous arc, like the world government been working on a plan in Wano, right? Since the last couple of years before Luffy arrives. And they also prophesied the return of Joy Boy, similar to, well, I mean, Odin did. And then in Elbaph, most giants have been waiting the return of the Sun God as well. It kind of makes me think of, what if Imu back in the day was a member of Nika's crew or Joy Boy's crew? Because it kind of makes me think of, if it's cyclical, only someone who was on that ship with them be able to, you know, undo what they're supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like always being, you know, breaking the alliance before it happens, type of thing. It made me think that in the first cycle, pre-Void Century, they were, you know, something. Basically, Ennis Lobby, Water 7 Ennis Lobby. A big fight that separates, you know, and then next time we see them with the Soka King thing, they burn the world government flag. What if the reverse is that person did not?
You mean pre-Thriller arc? Oh,
yeah. No, I'm just thinking, like, what if that's the inversion of that person did not become Soge King, and did not burn the world government flag, but founded the world government flag. So I'm really wondering, what if Imu a long time ago was a member of the crew? Because that knowledge is interesting, with especially like knowing to hit Wano and Elbaph years before even Joy Boy like was actually, but it was prophesied over there. So I'm wondering if that's the case. They want Joy Boy to fail. It's cyclical. I know where Joy Boy is going to be coming.
Right. Possible.
Yeah, just a thought.
I love this little bit off topic. I love this little shot though we got here of Luffy and Loki. just broing it out,
Margin in
man.
charge.
Yeah, man. The
Hell
whole Elbaph is under chaos, and they're like, "Woo, boy, that was a good
Dude,
feed."
they're having vacation right now.
I'm saying.
It's so
I know,
good.
I know Vex is hoping for Paramecia, but there's a big indication where we did the memes of what if Loki has the actual Gomu Gomu. The only time we've seen someone's body change that fast like that is the Zoe, type of thing. So it could be also the possibility
Nah,
that
it's a
the actual
running
Gomu.
gag with the food. They
Oh,
did it with
because we saw
Kid.
We
They
saw
did it with
Kid do that
Usopp.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
if
York.
Kid can do it, that means he's the Sun God Jika.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It would be the interesting twist that Loki actually has a real Gomu Gomu.
I'm not
I'm
against it,
actually
but I
here for
don't
that.
think the gag
Yeah,
is
you know.
indicative of it. You know what I mean?
See,
No,
I'm
just-
here for that because, like, from what we've seen of Ragnir and whatever Ragnir is that it obviously can harness like this crazy electrical power. So what if his devil fruit is like he mentioned specifically, like you guys can't even pick it up? What if it's
Right.
because as soon as somebody touches it, it just like starts shocking them, and because he's made of rubber, he can't get shocked.
Ooh.
I'm
actually
not-
totally
no,
fine
no,
with
what's
him
the other?
having the legit Gomu Gomu, whereas Luffy has the Nika, or vice versa. I literally don't care which one it is, but like I'm totally fine with him having like
Paramecia.
basically the same fruit, you know?
I get that. Did you guys take notice of like how crazy these impact shots though, or these attack shots between Brook and Jinbei actually are? Because you see,
Yeah.
it's a small panel, but arrows actually come out of both Brook and Jinbei's. Well, it's Jinbei's hand and it's Brook's weapon, so it's like Gunko initiated arrows from them and then redirected where their attacks would go. Like she determined the fate of their attacks. I thought that was wild.
And Brooke straight up stabs Jinbei. You see blood splurting.
I know. I thought that was pretty dark, actually.
I mean, he's got some thick hide. He can handle it. He fought for 10 straight
True,
days against, Ace. Like, I'm more amazed that Brook like just straight tanked a 5,000 brick fist. Am I right? Like, that's crazy.
I mean, his
Knocked
head kind of
clean
looks.
off.
Yeah, his head looks dislodged. And then
He's
Nami
fine.
gets wrecked too, man. Like, this is a beating of all, like, to the highest level.
Dude, yeah, the Colin pirates are going through it. Truly.
I mean, that impact shot then of Usopp, I mean, that's classic Usopp damage, but it's it's still heavy.
Like we even get in the midst of all this a named attack from Gunko in Aloe Faded Arrow, which is really interesting because like there's people who we've had for over 1,000 chapters and haven't gotten a named attack. Looking at you, Mihawk. So I'm like, this is really cool because like it's truly like the cat is out of the bag. Like shit is hitting the fan. Like we're going for it right now. Like this is cool.
Yeah. And I wonder.
It's such a cool shot too of.
No, go ahead.
Of Gunko taking Colin out with the arrow, and we see the ship flying in the air and everyone falling off. Like that's it's just such a with the tree in the background, like such a cool shot.
Yeah, Vex spoke about this coming into 2025. Actually, that we need to see some more users of devil fruits that just have like learned every aspect of their fruit, and that is Gunko in a nutshell. She's not only redirecting people's attacks and predetermining her own attacks, but she's using that to then lift people off the ground, send them flying away, redirect these children around the island.
She made a bird.
She made a plane. Yeah,
Right. Like this is
like,
this
that's
is the
crazy.
level we're looking for of expertise. She's given the arrow fruit, and we're here like, okay, what's her fruit? We were told the name like 10 chapters ago, and we're all still like, okay, what is it? It's
like,
great.
what can't it do? It's
Right,
no longer
right.
what can it do. It's like what can't it do, which is so cool. Like I love it.
Let's go.
Yeah,
But
I'm
heavy
liking
damage.
that- I'm liking the with Gonko, the Doflamingo approach. She's definitely OP with her fruit, but the fruit is not. It doesn't need to be natural OP. It's the
Mhm.
user who makes it, which is cool.
Yeah, so we see the basically the landscape shot, and Colin really is lifted right off the ship. He's gone. And then we get all the facial reactions of that, so that's pretty big. But
Maybe I shouldn't have called us the Colin Pirates at the beginning.
They're fine. This
They're
reminds
good.
me
They're okay.
though. Yeah, this reminds me though of whenever Shanks had Kid pulling up and he whipped out the Kamusari, and whenever Winter Island, showdown happened and Teach showed Law what was up, it said they were utterly destroyed.
Yeah.
And if we got a little narrator box saying the Colin Pirates were utterly destroyed, this would be fitting. Seeing all of their they just got dealt with. This is crazy.
Yeah, it really is. And I wasn't expecting the last chapter when we got the interaction. We all joke oh, Gunko's gonna fall apart when she sees Brooke. Nah. She stood on business. The mission is the mission.
She didn't
Brooke fell
mention a
apart.
damn thing.
Yeah.
Literally.
But I'm even wondering if she's aware of the song but not the artist.
No, I think there's just a separation. There's almost this assumption that the world had to end. It didn't end when it was supposed to, so everything here is meaningless. I have my duties, but whatever.
I don't think. No, I'm saying that because it doesn't seem that she's even gave any edification, something about Brooke, even make a comment about him.
Yeah, no.
She heard the song on a TikTok short. She doesn't actually know who Soul King is though.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a
fake fan. Am I right?
For sure. But the school is going through it too, eh? We're not going to talk about Ange in the corner, the only one who didn't get the beating, but
she's literally being detained. What do you want?
They have to keep up appearances.
Yeah, but she wasn't grabbed by her beard and thrown to the ground.
She doesn't have a beard.
What a crazy attack, by the way.
Her nose hair, probably.
Killing him. He's like, oh, I'm not going to go anywhere near those tusks, so I'm just going to whip you around by the beard.
I mean, look, the way that I see this is that Kube actually tried to defend himself, whereas Ange was in the corner.
Oh, get me.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't think this feeds fuel to the fire of this crackpot Ange agenda. But sure,
they're starting to turn me, man. Oda's gotten me going.
Okay, no, Nak, hold strong. I need you. This is
don't worry,
it's crazy. Literally,
I'm still here,
every single panel that this nice lady is in, people are like, "Oh, but did you see? This is she's literally being detained." Why would they even detain her if she was in cahoots? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But bro got pieced up though. Kube he got a tusk ripped out. That's brutal. That's insane.
we're in rough shape here, man. Honest to God, the monsters aren't really damaging, but they don't stop. And then the God's Knights are unstoppable here.
Bro's dental game looking like Blackbeard right now. This is crazy.
There was something I caught.
They'll be wishing for Loki. It'll be not to. I'm sorry, it just came to my mind. Didn't mean to cut you off, Cube. But they'll be wishing for Loki like Fishman Island wished for Luffy.
Yeah.
So what do you think about it?
I was just gonna say, I did see a sort of fairy tale inspiration for the Summers and Killingham part of the storyline in this chapter. It's almost like Sleeping Beauty, the Thorns, the sleeping aspect for some people, the dragon. It made me think of Sleeping Beauty the second time around, just the different themes of Sleeping Beauty, which was interesting.
Oh man,
you don't Oda loves Disney stuff. Oh, that's not a Disney fairy tale, is it?
Yeah,
that's a Brothers Grimm one, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
but
been modernized into one.
Okay, yeah.
The Disney and the Grimms both have the foreign aspect as well, so there is that as well. So it's I could see definitely a bit of inspiration, which is cool.
Yeah, well, we need to give some respect to the man here, laying his life down, putting his all front again. I know Vex, this is your guy, so we're gonna talk about what's going on with Saul, yeah?
Bro.
I'm just kidding.
No, dude, seeing Summers face down with Saul and Saul being absolutely tore up, and seeing just the volume of like briars and thorns that are surrounding it. Like this is an absolute menace. I don't know what's going on with this guy's weapon either, and if it's maybe like a devil fruit application, or if it's like, I don't know what's going on. There's so much going on right here. Yeah, that's wild. I thought it was a whip or like a sword, but this is insane. And let's be real, guys. This is One Piece. Saul's gonna be fine, right? Right? I'm not coping.
How many times?
We can't get two fake out deaths for someone.
Oh, dude, this is damage. Like I've been saying it a lot this arc, but like we don't see this often, and people are getting hurt. Saul was hurt when he tried to stop the kids, and I was shocked by that. But like Oda's got this really heavily drawn. Like I know it's a lot of shading, but.
Yeah, what really terrifies me is that, for one, we've been getting the characterization that these guys don't play games. These guys mean business as far as the Holy Knights go, right? But him mentioning to Saul, I thought you unalived on Ohara. That leads me to believe that he is going to make damn sure this time. And that's crazy, because there's also other implications to that statement, as far as the level of involvement and information that God's Knights have, as well as that this particular individual, Summers, was in fact still a Holy Knight 22 plus years ago, right? So there's even more little show don't tell kind of characterization that we get here.
It's another survivor of Ohara that they can't let that happen. Like they chased Robin down to the end of time. If they knew Saul was still alive, they would have done the same.
So yeah, I have an idea of what's gonna happen in the future, especially Summers being a God's Knight who's aware of the events of Ohara. I think we might be getting a parallel to what would happen in Fishman Island. We're getting a context of why Nami had to suffer, and it started all with Fisher Tiger. And we never got the indication that was left mysterious in Ohara. What did they uncover? Because remember, Olivia said that they found out what she was researching, and when they found out what it was, they wanted to know where we were all hiding. We never got the context. Like, well, for Vegapunk and Egghead, we know he was studying ancient kingdom texts, and that was a taboo. It was left mysterious. So I'm wondering with Summers, we might be getting like in Fishman Island, more context of what led to Ohara, like what led to Nami's Island. We know Summers being a God's Knight, who seems to be well aware of the Ohara event, and I would hope that a God's Knight has even more unfiltered information than an Admiral.
Yeah.
Like no taboos, for them.
Well, it's almost a scary thought now that they are realizing that perhaps everyone here knows about Ohara from Saul still being alive, and maybe it justifies even more action than they were taking at this point.
Yeah.
Because Saturn took out the citizens or the researchers of Egghead just on the chance that they were involved with the research of the Void Century.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised the same justification is thrown here.
Maybe we'll be getting some bit of Clover in this arc a bit more if Summers starts.
Well, it's a good point, because Saul is here having a bit of a standoff for what he believes in and for protecting Robin, the survivor, or the will of Ohara personified. Plus we also get these shots of the individuals who changed the world up here: Clover, Vegapunk, and Olivia, all big parts of Robin's backstory as well. Olivia, sorry,
I was gonna say it. Yeah,
but
I was gonna say it too.
It's very interesting that we're getting like the main cast of Ohara highlighted here, like it's a rebirth of the Tree of Knowledge kind of thing.
I wasn't too heavy on the Ohara side of things until I think what Kube said really honestly makes a lot of sense, is that because now anyone here could also know what he knows, but it would make sense that Summers would maybe, especially given what Gonko said this chapter, that the people who the giants side with so having Saul as like a Marine was a big deal. Let alone the fact that he's a D-Clan member.
Caramel.
So exactly. So it goes back to like he's one of the few that we've seen that were Marines, and him defecting had to have been like a more than like it was a bad omen for sure, right?
Yeah,
Right,
more than
yeah.
just losing a vice admiral.
Exactly. So I think that's another reason why it stuck in his mind. But what you said about like him flapping his gums to everyone here, maybe they'll leave no witnesses and try to just full scorched earth,
Mhm.
you know, instead of just taking the kids. Like
Yeah.
now maybe the MO changes to a whole
Absolutely.
different plan.
Yeah.
So I
And
do believe that's possible.
And in Fishman Island, we only got the answer because Jinbei was going to tell Nami why she had to suffer. I could see it happening with Robin. He sees Robin, the fighting, he's yapping, and then suddenly he gets into like the traditional One Piece villain. Let me explain why your people had to suffer. Are you ready for my flashback? You know, I feel like it's gonna be something to that extent. It doesn't need to be a massive flashback, obviously, but you know, a footnote, because we did get like two sides of one big
No,
flashback.
it's
in
great
Fishman Island.
opportunity here, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
But that wasn't all that was said. Like, I mean, you know, they talk here about Harold as well, and there's two ways I kind of look at this. But what's your guys' first thoughts on this stuff?
I'm good. Mine is quick. It's something I never thought of, but I do think that there's definitely been a meeting with the Gods Knights, and I do think that him turning them to a scholar might have been him finding out about something about the Gods Knights. You know, you want to use my people, so it's hard to use a warrior race if there are no more warriors. I'm wondering that's why he started to 20 years ago start to change the hearts and minds of the people of Elbaph, because it's the only way to, because if they go to war, their eyes will be turned into interns or they'll be forced to fight for them. Well, if we're scholars,
Yeah,
what are you gonna do
it's
with
like
us?
pacifying so they can't really be the determining
Yeah.
factor.
Mm.
I'd rather not be used.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think that I believe Tekking had put out a video illustrating a point kind of similar to that. It's like, oh well, if this is going to be something that's integral in the prophecy, what if it doesn't actually exist in that form? So yeah, I could see that being it. What really sticks to me and why I'm having a hard time figuring out how to interpret this last little bit here, where they're talking about how Harold, that bastard, he really messed everything up, is because they were, I don't know if maybe they were just being snarky and joking
Right.
whenever they had a passing dialogue with Shamrock before he pieced out.
Yep.
But they're like, were you here visiting Harold's grave? And I'm like, was that a quip? Or is
Right.
there
Yeah.
more to the potential relationship that the Holy Knights had with Harold? So
Yeah,
it's
that's-
really interesting.
Definitely the other
I'm-
side I was coming from. Like when I say two sides, I like not only are they blaming him for the issue, I think there's also a part of this, like they almost had a deal with Harold. Like and we know, like, everybody's talking about the relationship Kaido and Harold, but I'm not sure if there's a physical one. But maybe it does connect
Yeah,
back
I
to the
doubt it.
story. You know what I mean? How Kaido was sold off for membership at the Reverie. Perhaps Harold was trying to make a deal, and Loki was not playing games. He's not going to
I
be a
had
part of that.
the opposite. I think I've been thinking for a while, Loki, that Harold had wanted Loki to do what he wanted to do what he
Mhm.
did, to sort of save the giants, because Harold realized he was too far. Like his plan to essentially pacify the giants so they couldn't help the world government started to fail, and that they might actually get a hold of the giants. So he's like, only Loki can essentially change this outcome. And so
Yeah.
he maybe
No, I love that.
antagonized them or worked with Loki to like, no, you have to take my fruit, and the only way to do that is you're gonna have to have some bad times to take me out.
Yeah.
Well, I really like that, because it would imply like maybe he did go into working with the government with good intentions, found out some ulterior motives or what they're truly about, and was too deep to pull back. Yeah, that would be
Kinda-
Because
a great
Loki
way to do
obviously
it.
cares that he had to do that to King Harold, because he's like, do you really think I killed not just the king? Do you think I really think I killed our father in
Yeah,
cold
yeah.
blood?
Yeah, like I'd do it without a reason, or like not being
Yeah.
compelled to, you know.
Actually,
Yeah,
you know
I
what?
like that.
What you just said, it's really fire, because it kind of made me think of Usopp being unalived by Nami. So the eyes of, I don't know, it was Johnny or Yusaku, one of them.
Oh,
And then he said to everyone, it could have been that in his last few seconds I was talking to his son, and then he, a bit like Thanos just before he was on the live beginning of Endgame. I was too harsh with you, my kid. You know what I mean? Like, finally seeing like, and then giving Loki the fruit, then on the lives. But everyone thinks no, Loki had to do it because Loki is a mischievous one. You know what I mean? He's the one who keeps making jokes, who bullies everyone.
The expectation was set for Loki to do something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could be that. Yeah. You're spitting, man. I didn't think of that possibility.
Just why is our new captain?
Yeah, man.
I think that there's also the possibility that, like, I mean, people are thinking that Harold might have been doing it to try to defend his country or something like that. Like, it also could have just been that Harold was straight up evil. And there could have been, like, if he wanted to rule with an iron fist, so pacifying his, stock and making sure that there would be no insurgencies, between his individual. So maybe he was the one who opted to put an end to, your traditional giant warrioring, and anyone who was still scrappy and wanting to remain a warrior, he would just sell off to the Marines. Because I don't know, I'm not saying I believe in it, but it's definitely still a possibility.
Well, I think he knew about Mother Caramel. I don't think she could have operated that under his nose and still get the support of giants.
For sure.
Right.
Wasn't she also there the day that Loki was born, or she was just in town? I don't remember if she
was still living there.
That was right around the Pandora time. Like the week that he was born, she was there.
Okay. I thought for a second that she was invited to witness the birth. I got confused.
No, because the incident where they got kicked off was during like the conclusion of the winter solstice, where they were born. So they were all there for the winter solstice, and then Lin couldn't handle it and attacked Yarl, and that's when they were banished to the other island. But remember, they sent a crew of giants with Mother Caramel who said, like, we still support you no matter what. Like, you're always be looked at as our mother, no matter what happened here. So I think there was some real connection with Harold.
I'm glad that we'll be getting it from maybe multiple different from multiple different angles. Is that we get Loki's potential flashbacking and Haryuden's. That's already two different perspectives on the matter. But now understanding it from a Holy Knight's perspective is also very interesting. Yeah. So it's very clever how Oda has kind of illustrated this in a way where we don't quite know what to make of it, and that there's so many different possibilities. I don't think we're supposed to have enough information to really feel solid on any of these ideas yet, but I'm very interested to see how it plays out. But unless anyone else has anything they want to say on Harold, I did also want to speak on one other thing before we get to final thoughts and ratings.
Well, go ahead. I think I like Kush's point a lot, actually. I think I never even considered the angle that he realized how deep he was in. But yeah, no, there's no way we can say for sure who it is, what's going on. Yarl is still sus. So.
Yeah. But to speak on one other thing that's really heavy hitting in this last page here, we talked about how Saul is an absolute unit. He's a Chad, and we're all sending him our good vibes and hoping, because I can't go through it. I will cry, Oda.
Thoughts and prayers.
But my heart goes out to Robin right now. She's going through some major trauma. I know I've heard from a few individuals in the community already, like, yes, she is very combat capable, but like, and I hate using the word mental nerve, so I'm just gonna do it ironically, but she's actually face to face with some serious childhood trauma, and this is a horrible matchup for her if she were to try to combat Sommers.
And I think people need to remember
damage.
Yeah, we saw that against Dressrosa guy, the flag guy, was when he had like the spikes raining down.
Steven Tyler.
But Robin she's absolutely, you touched on it perfect. It's the childhood trauma. Like when Luffy answered the call from the Gorosei, it was the same reaction. She can't even hear their voice.
Plus and it's another thing is to realize that it is the actual smart thing to stay hidden, because it's not worth risking like her ability to read the ancient texts, you know, and
Mhm.
gambling that away on this bad matchup, especially when this person who is potentially offering up their life in defense of yours is pleading with you to
Stay
not
away.
engage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there were a
Yeah.
few people in the community I saw who were aggravated that Robin isn't stepping up right now. I don't think that's the response you should be having. I think
Never
this is
even crossed
totally
my mind.
understandable.
I
Yeah.
might have a solution for Robin how to deal with Summers actually. All she has
Oh,
to
no.
do is when Scopper is wrecking the island because someone took his child and he's going after Gonko, she just still have to tell Scopper there was also a guy called Summers who was behind the duck shot of your son. Because
No.
I'm telling you, Scopper in the next chapter or two, he's gonna be on demon time.
Yeah, Scopper versus
Yeah.
Summers is
Some
coming.
demon
I
time.
agree.
Yeah.
I'm here for
Scopper and
that.
Summers,
But
yeah, because I think Scopper could be. And dude, he has swords. Scopper cuts trees. What is he gonna
yeah,
do, Summers? I mean, Scopper.
I hope we get it. I hope we get it before Saul, you know, has
he'll
to
be
face
safe,
too
Saul.
much more
I
damage.
will-
Yeah, like
A
'cause-
bit of hope, Vex. I have scoured this panel of the Giants. I do not see Gaban on the ship anymore.
No, Gaban's not on the ship anymore.
Yeah.
And he
He's
sends,
like-
dude, he
He's light
sends the
speed.
God Knights. Yeah, and
Come on,
he sends the
please.
God Knights hiding. He sends the God's Knights. He sends their hiding their presence. I'm convinced that
look.
he can feel the presence of his child in danger. I'm convinced. Of
Yeah,
that. He will
yeah,
sense
yeah.
it.
Let me
Oh,
look
right.
at each of these little debris specks on this last page. Does any of them look like they could be
Gaban.
Gaban?
Yeah.
No, dude, if he just like Superman, like boom, like lands down like right in front, like with his two axes, and dude, this is gonna be so peak. It's gonna be
Mhm.
so
Oh, yeah, dude.
peak, right?
Let's go.
Oh man, it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Fun one.
I think it's about that time. We've been yapping
Yeah.
for quite a bit. Anybody have final thoughts?
The
I just had a
stakes
thought.
are rising. That's what I get from this whole chapter.
So I would
Go
like
ahead,
a
Cube.
thought from all of you from one character because we've talked a lot about Gonko and Summers, but I found like Killingham to being a really interesting one because you can guess with the other two like how their their worldview is. He is quite open-minded, I feel, and like the move that we know. Well, I mean, we saw him taking down one, but with Ange, he used a non-lethal move.
Yeah.
He's
Dude.
very interesting. So what's your thought on
Yeah,
Killingham?
she's a confidant. Like she's on his
Shut
side.
up. Oh my god, no.
My initial read of Killingham is he is kind of the mentality that Luffy is against. Like that there are separations of people based on race and class, and he's just the personification of that. He seems indifferent to all this. He doesn't even want to be here.
I think because he doesn't have more information, like he doesn't know this whole potential O'Hara situation that like we talked about with Sommers, and that maybe Sommers is gonna have to go scorched earth on this. So he's following orders. He's complacent in like, oh, I gotta do that. And so if Kiba like stood up and defended himself and wanted to fight for the sake of the school, which obviously he did, he got dealt with. He got his tusk ripped out. He got the 1-2, right? He ran the business on him, and like that's his job. He's like, yeah, okay, cool, I'll take care of you. But Ange probably not squaring up and trying to like have much resistance. He, like you said, he did like a non-combative way of taking her out of the equation. So it's like he's not going above and beyond. Like I don't see the
But if
same level
someone-
of like
yeah.
bloodlust or cruelty that we're seeing from like Gonko or Sommers. And he doesn't seem to be getting enjoyment out of it either. So like he's just
Part of a
along
normal
for the
day.
ride. He's just he seems like he's on his 9 to 5 grind. Like I won't say that I respect it, but it's a little bit more interesting. And again,
If
some
someone gets in
distinct
his way,
characterization.
he's gonna make you get out of it. Like he's gonna
Yeah,
do it as
exactly.
fast as possible. Just get the job done.
He seems
Yeah.
like it. Like the way that I can kind of see it playing out is when he was fighting Kiba. He's like, "Hey, bro, just stay down."
Yeah.
And Kiba kept getting back up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that's, I feel like
Yeah.
that's the kind of villain that he might be, and that's really
Yeah.
interesting, especially
Yeah.
paired up with these other two. But
Yeah.
it's a good point, Cube. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about him, and sleep paralysis is a crazy
It's a
ability.
terrifying ability.
Yeah, man.
Let's
what
be
do you want
real.
to do with that?
Old hag, but
Crazy.
hovering over you and crap. No.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
Yeah,
Lovely
yeah,
chapter
like you said,
though.
Mac,
Lovely
yeah, the
chapter.
stakes are absolutely higher. I think that it's funny because like I was joking in OPU, One Piece University Discord with some of the boys over there, and I'm like, yo, power scalers are having a hard time this arc because we did see the Call-in pirates, albeit a few of the more non-combative or non-frontline kind of members getting verily dealt with, and
They still give their best showings.
yeah, it was rough to see it kind of happen. Like I don't know, it's the heat is on. Like this is
you said it,
crazy,
man.
and I am very, very curious to see how this goes down. And unfortunately, the two people who are probably the strongest punchers on this island, outside of maybe Gabon, are sitting fat and happy with big old bellies. So I'm wondering how
Classic.
all of it'll come together,
Oh yeah.
or if
me
we'll
too,
stay
brother.
divided for more of the arc.
Well said. Yeah. Well said. How about we go around table? Everybody got a ranking for this week?
Yeah, let's get it.
Cube, what do you got?
So my ranking, I'm gonna put it with everything we've gotten. I'm gonna put it as a 9. We get lore, we
shit.
get fighting, we get a lot of we get the different abilities for the God's Knights, we get feats for the Straw Hats, or not the usual 3, which is Luffy, Zoro, Sanji.
I mean, it's
So
hard to
for me,
argue.
it's a 9.
Yeah.
It's a 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a really well
What
chapter.
about you,
Good chapter.
Captain?
I give it a very, very mid 8.5.
Respectable.
You said mid, I got a little worried. I was like, oh man, we got a harsh grader, like a harsh grader in the house. Like 8.5 is not bad. Yeah,
not at all.
I myself, maybe this is a hot take. I don't know. maybe this is a hot take. I think I'm probably gonna give this one like a 5.75 or a 6. Like I don't know. Like for me, it's there's a few things that I like, obviously, and a lot is happening. It feels like some things did kind of get brushed over and off screened that I maybe would have liked to see a little more detail on. So I think that takes away a little bit from it. I think that we do feel really divided right now, and I feel, if we're supposed to, that's fine, but it's definitely feeling that way. My main thing is I don't want Oda to keep dangling this whole Saul situation in front of us. Like,
Yeah.
It's not fair. And there's just, I don't know, it doesn't feel so much like payoff. It feels like setup. And
Yeah, I agree.
with the setup chapter, the highest I'll give it is an 8, typically, unless it's like on the mural level of things, you know what I mean? And I don't think this is the highest of setup chapters, not in the slightest. And this is not a bad chapter, so I'm not giving it like below a 5. But I can't see me giving it much higher than a 6. So I'm thinking like a 6 is probably where I'll reserve my final, as always, until the officials.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But I guess it's left to me, and now I'm stuck trying to make a case between a 9 and a 5.5. But I'll give you what I said right out the gate.
That's a huge difference.
This is
Dude,
what
that's
we're faced
massive.
with, all right? You take what you get. But no, I like the chapter a lot, and I do agree with your sentiment that it's a lot of build up. Like the stakes are getting to the point where something has to happen. Luffy has to start getting involved with the conflict. That's usually the point where everything pops off in an arc. Luffy's always got some distraction or some convenient reason why he's not involved with everything until he is, and when he is when we really get to see the true conflict. So I don't actually think it'll be much longer until Luffy gets wind of this stuff. Perhaps
I hope not.
I
Yeah.
appreciate seeing the Straw Hats take an L.
they
Yeah.
you know, they were riding high through Egghead. Let's just say that. There wasn't a lot.
Yeah,
As
and I
much
mean-
crazy as the conflict was, there wasn't a lot of stakes in Egghead because it just felt like whoever was in charge of the authority chip was just winning.
Yeah, I didn't take issue at all with like how many things in this chapter played out. It's just I feel like it could have been maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. I want more of One Piece. I think that it felt like a change of pace in that so many things were, and in the very beginning of the chapter we picked up exactly where we left off with the Gunko situation, but then all of a sudden halfway through the chapter we're like, it feels like a half an hour ahead of like where the rest of the island was when we left them. Like we didn't see the situation with Killingham and Kiba. We didn't see the situation with Saul and Somers. And so where is Gabon specifically? So it just, to me, it feels like we spent a lot of time on certain things and almost no time at all on other things. And I'm curious to his reasonings, and Oda likes to leave us in the dark about certain things so that we can't form solid opinions either which way. And I get that, and again, that just leads to me thinking that this is a setup chapter.
I mean,
Very
you're not
interested to
wrong.
see the payoff.
You're not wrong because, and I keep saying that, especially since they're now for the next 6 months, the anime and the manga will be taking their breaks around the same time. So you will most likely, when you have a break week, you'll both have the anime and manga. We are 5 to 6 chapters away from seeing the Goth Knights and the Roger Pirates in the Kuma flashback. Like,
Wow.
it could be the
Yeah.
build-up you're talking about, and we had that in Wano when Jinbei's fight with Who's Who coincided with around the same time as 1044. Both talk about Nika. So I do agree that for both of you, what you're saying, it's definitely a setup to something big, and I just think that the anime, it just goes back to the anime. And don't remember, the first image we saw in that flashback was that God Knight that looked just like Rodo at the beginning of the arc, with that skull mask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
So,
could you give a rating?
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7.
Okay, yeah,
7 out
okay,
of 10.
cool. So we're all locked in. And I think it's good to have like these divergent, takes. We're not just like all
That's
in
why
an
we're
echo
here.
chamber. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
It's always good to bounce like ideas off with the crew. And I honestly, I don't know, I really thought that when I was first reading this chapter, some of the middle paneling and pages with like where it's just Gonko versus the crew and stuff, it didn't necessarily hit as much for me.
Yep.
Outside of a few instances like the thumbs up from Nami and Brooke and stuff but
It's more the implication of
was-
the powers that I love from the fights. And then the fights are like secondary. It's like, oh, the power. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
I felt like we could have gotten more, which is why I give it the rating that I did. But
I totally get it.
yeah, I'm very excited still for the next chapter. Cannot wait. We're not on a break week, so we should be seeing you guys next week for 11:47. Pretty
Yeah,
hype.
we'll wait for officials and this will drop once again. Appreciate
Yeah,
the
with all
captain
that being
for
said,
leading us through this tough time and
Absolutely.
taking helm.
yeah.
We're gonna rescue Straw Hat Lucas from Impel Down. Don't you worry.
We got to get 3-day too. She's going through it. She's been
Yeah, Cypher Pull's
fighting.
been really on our tail lately, but yeah, it's been a pleasure. As always, we've been the Eternal Dawn. Make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you guys check out all the links in the description. Where you can catch reviews with Bro. You can catch Straw Hat Lucas, who has Rambling Addiction returning soon. We've got Knack Reacts in the house, as always. He just finished one of the best series of all time. Can't wait to see what he gets into next.
arguably
And,
the best first season of anime I've ever seen.
yeah, and make sure you join the Discord because we yap in there all the time. And we're so happy to, involve with our community. And we're glad that, Kush, we're glad that you can join us today as well.
Absolutely. Thank you
that's
very
a
much.
prime
man.
example. So with all that being said, Cube, you wanna send us off?
Yes, and we'll see you all at the next sunrise. Bye.